Fred says he has so many grandkids now, he has to start ear tagging them.
That's a good point.
Look at that lake.
That's Molly's Pond. That's Cow Hill. It's where the original farm used to be.
Yep.
Hello, girls. Hello, babies. Now, these are heifers, so they're not being used for milking yet, and they're running a bull with them.
Okay.
So they're in process of breeding stage.
What's the blue? Is that so the machine can track how each cow produces milk?
No, the cow's tags will give the farmer information about the cow, its pedigree, all sorts of stuff. When they go near the feed sensors, it will actually, some barns will dispense a certain amount of certain types of feed specific for that cow.
To make sure it's getting
the proper nutrition, and if they're milking cows, the right kind of grain to help produce milk.
So instead of do this to the herd, they're giving each cow what
Yeah, you can specialize a little bit. Yep. Huh. And of course, over here is Molly's Pond, which is it's a beaver pond, but it's huge.
That is huge.
And then, of course, the neighbor's farm that's in between our two pieces here actually came up for sale, and if I'd have known he was going to sell it for the price he sold it for, I'd have snapped that up, because that's all these fields in the front.
Oh, wow.
But Guy bought that, and he's fixing that farm up to actually be a horse boarding farm, which will be wonderful.
Shot of this cow right here. Is this electric fence here?
Yes, it is.
You could have had fun with me, Ruth.
Uh-huh. It's a good one, too. It'll get your attention.
I just wanted to catch you chewing on that hay, or that grass.
You got food? Hello, girls. Hello, babies.
Cool. People are here. Parked around back, I believe. This way? Yeah. That's where we parked last time.
Uphill.
I don't know. We got that thing in the back. I want to get it out. You want to ask where we could drop this off?
Oh, I'm Ruth Goodrich, and you're in Goodrich's Maple Farm Sugar House in Cabot, Vermont. We got into this because Glenn wanted to tap 25 trees in the backyard when he was a school teacher back in, I think it was 78. So we got some old buckets from a neighbor and some old spouts, and we hung a few buckets, and some of them were actually Schwann's ice cream buckets.
Food grade. They were food grade.
They were self-emptying too, yeah. They get about so full and fold up. So he'd go off to school, and it was my job with a little radio flyer sled with a 5-gallon bucket bungee corded to it to go out and swallow through the snowbanks and collect these buckets during the day, and then boil on a little 2x2 square pan in the backyard with cement blocks with a fire under it. And it wasn't, I won't say I was really enthusiastic about it all that much. You know, it was something that I grew up doing on a small scale when I was little with my dad, but, you know, it wasn't necessarily a burning desire at that point in time. And then he'd come home and boil the rest of it down on the stove in the kitchen at night. And then the next year we tapped 75 trees, oh boy, even more, further out into the woods to wallow around in the snow. And then we had a 2x4 pan on cement blocks in the backyard. It was really step up. And as I'm standing there and the wind's blowing and it's snowing and I'm watching this try to boil and thinking, yeah, ha ha ha, isn't this fun? You know, it's something that we did. We made it for our own use, and it was great. Tasted great. Probably was not the greatest quality in the world, but we thought it was great. And so the next year, we were renting a house at that time. The next year, we actually built our house next to the farm and didn't sugar that year. And we also built a small sugar house, which was the original. The original one was this one here for us. And it was originally just this part without this side addition on it. It had 9 additions on it before we got done.
I knew it.
Yeah, you can
I
never
asked him
build a
how many
sugar house
additions,
big
and he
enough.
said 2.
No.
Thank you.
No, there was
I
more
knew
than that.
better. I knew better. Let me get a shot of this real quick. I knew better. So this is the original sugar.
That's the original sugar house for us.
And this had how many additions?
I think about 9 different things that we added to it before we were through. This is Grandpa's old sugar house here. And you can see the, the different things going on there.
See, I thought my 7 was a lot. 7 additions.
This sugar house here was built originally in 1990 because we wanted to get out away. We had a little farm stand, but on a side road, you're pulling maybe 1 out of 1,000 that's going by because they're afraid that this is a little tiny back road. Say nothing about get on a dirt road. So we thought our production eventually outpaced our sales. And so we wanted to get out in the main view a little more. So we built this building in 1990 and increased our sales dramatically to get onto a main road like this.
It was a good move.
It was a good move. And then this used to be the woodshed beyond this wall. We then changed over from wood to oil at some certain point in time and made this into a sugaring equipment sales and service sales room, and started that aspect of the business. And then we added an upper sugar house that we rented to a friend of ours for about 10 years. So that's the other building that's here that looks like a sugar house.
Okay.
It's been converted into a warehouse for glass bottles that we sell. Mm-hmm. And then we built the tank building where our fuel tank is. And then we built our big shop, which we have for fabrication and repairs and things like that. We built the big warehouse that's on the upper level. Then we built this one over here and put this drop tank building in as well. So it's been a series of buildings added on over the years. Had it to do over again, we'd build it all in one building and have it be done with, but it didn't work that way.
You know what? I feel in the maple industry, we all learn this.
Yeah.
Maybe, well...
You can't build it big enough.
True.
Then we added on to the front side, we added on 16 feet by 72 to give us a conference room and more showroom space and a bunker, basically a concrete bunker underneath to store our syrup in a more of a climate controlled area, all of our drum syrup. And that worked out very well. And then this year we added on 24 feet that way towards the parking lot where we added on extra retail space, a commercial kitchen. On the first floor, on the ground floor is a complete canning room, which was dedicated just for that, where previously you kind of tuck it in wherever you can. So it's nice to have a dedicated space for that. Plus we've got attic storage space overhead. So that's really working well for us. To Glenn, he breathes it. He breathes it, he sleeps it. That's his world, his maple. And he doesn't have any hobbies. And all of his people that he knows are within the maple industry, and everybody knows him, of course. Mm-hmm. He has very few really close friends, but he has a lot of acquaintances. Everywhere he goes, people know him, and that's kind of a neat thing. For me, I'm more of an artist, and I love working with plants and agricultural. I grew up on a farm, and I run a berry farm next door and things like that. So I have a lot more variety in my scope of vision, I guess you'd call it. My job is to support him in what he does, and we raised our family.
Which, by the way, is probably not easy.
Well, any relationship is interesting. We've been married for 47 years. And a lot of people have asked what our success is to that, and I say he's gone all the time. So I have a pretty free rein on my particular, time and what I want to do. But I work here 6 days a week, making this happen. And over the years, we've had all 3 of our daughters involved in the business here, and now our grandchildren. Mm-hmm. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to work. It is a juggling match to have everybody getting along, because anytime you have family working together 24/7, it's a bit of a challenge.
Right.
We all have learned to go, okay, not today, and do something else for a while. But it's something that it provides a decent living for us all, and we support roughly 20 to 22 families with this business. with all of our employees.
Gotcha.
And so with that comes a great amount of responsibility to keep this thing going.
Right.
And here, where you saw at Glenn's Sugar House, we have it's his and her sugar houses, okay? At Glenn's Sugar House, you saw the massive production end of things, and where they're just working that big operation. Here, right from the beginning, this has been a tourism-based operation. We sugar here, yes, but the rest of the time, it's tourism-based, as you've seen with all of the displays. We've got just about everything you could imagine to try to explain the craft to people and take it from Native American days right up through to modern equipment and what we do here. And that's what we do every day that we're open 6 days a week. People will come, we'll give them a tour, explain to them what it takes to make the maple syrup, what our tradition is in it, what the whole tradition is of maple as a heritage craft being handed down from one generation to the next for hundreds of years. And then they have a better grasp on the actual method and the work that goes into this, even though they're just seeing the tip of the iceberg.
But this is not a small operation by any means.
We maxed out here at about 55,000 at one time.
Okay.
We're back to around 15 to 20,000, which is a good size operation in its own right, but it's a lot smaller than it used to be. Mainly because different groves come online and go offline and change hands.
So in the state of Ohio, you would, at this location, be the largest operation in the state of Ohio.
Really?
Yeah, maybe second or third. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's not small.
It's not small by any means, but it's smaller than it used to be, and it's certainly small compared to the big operation up in Eden.
Sure, sure.
Combined, we produce anywhere from 60 to 80,000 gallons of syrup.
Wow. State your name and where we are.
Victoria. I'm one of the granddaughters of the Goodriches. I do a little bit of everything around here. I go from mechanic to tour guide. My favorite part is probably, I don't know, tasting syrup.
So your favorite part is tasting. What can you give me your favorite memory so far of doing this?
My favorite memory is probably having my own trees on the side of the driveway, on my side of my mom's driveway.
Say more. When you say you have your own trees, what's that
I
mean?
have 7 trees on gravity-fed tubing that I tap myself.
And you take care of?
Yeah.
Does somebody buy that sap from you?
No, I just bring it over and dump it into the big tanks.
You don't get $3 a pound for your sap?
No.
What? Listen, I'll be your union rep and help you out with this.
She eats that in donuts.
So your favorite, I guess, so your favorite part is tasting, but also the memory, or you currently do this, or you have a memory of doing it?
No, I currently do it. I have 7 trees. I had 10 at one point.
Are these trees like big, older trees, or are they younger?
They're younger.
So like, how big around are these trees?
About a foot in diameter.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the tourist side. This is what everybody mainly sees when they come in. And when we explain the maple process to them, we give them the history and our history and all that. And then we explain how this all works. And Glenn, of course, designed the steam away 4-liter evaporator years ago and held a joint patent with that, with them for many years. And then he's designed the steam pan for CDL and the other ones, and enhanced the piggyback for LaPierre. So he's a designer and comes up with all these different little things that make everything work a little bit better, smoother, and more efficiently. So when people come in and they go, wow, it looks like a train, I explain to them how it all works. It's oil-fired, and it burns 45 gallons of oil an hour, diesel. And then that will produce 6 million BTU per hour. And Glenn has done the numbers on that, and he says that's enough to heat 100 homes at 40 below for a month.
Wow.
Which gives you an idea of the heat factor there. And so basically the sap is going to be concentrated before it comes into the evaporator by the RO. And then it comes into pipes where it's preheated up in the hood. Then it's boiled in that top pan. And then the bottom pan produces the original steam, which heats the second pan, which heats the preheater. And it makes the whole unit 75% more efficient. And so it'll go top to bottom, back to front through a series of channels like a river. And once it hits the bottom heat, it's starting to caramelize that sugar, bringing out the color and the flavors. With light in the beginning, of course, and dark towards the end. And when it reaches to the 219 degree point. That's, of course, the syrup stage where we will take it out, filter it, and can it into the 40-gallon drums. So if you want to come around the other side, we'll take a look at where the action area is. So over here is where it actually comes in, and we have a flow meter here to show what the machine is doing. And we've got the sight gauges so we can see how much fluid is in the pans. And then it will go through and come out basically over here. We have these two big draw-off tubs here. Of course, watching the thermometers, watching the sight levels, watching the automatic draw-off, and of course, watching for any problems along the way. We then filter it, of course, and it goes through the filter press, which is this here. This will actually turn and sit right here, and it will filter the syrup, and then it goes into this tank, where it then gravity feeds downstairs to a scale where we have a barrel, and we can the syrup down there. So we're never touching the syrup when, at any point. We're not lifting syrup, dumping it into filters or anything like that anymore. It's all pretty much automated in the sense that you got to throw a switch and away she goes.
What is the size of this evaporator?
This is a 6x15.
6x15. Mm-hmm. Is it front or rear fired?
It's rear fired, but it.
Yeah, this is one of the most efficient evaporators in the industry.
Yeah, it's
is this the one where it actually, the flame comes from the back?
Yes.
Comes up and around, hits the front pans, and then runs through the flues?
Through the flues on the way back, yep.
And that is called something. Is it?
Gasifier.
Yeah, this is the most efficient.
It's very efficient. And
because there's actually a flat bottom on your flue pan, right?
Yes.
And then this doesn't technically have flues.
It comes, there's a level in there where the fire's underneath it, and the flue, it divides that from the flue pans. So it has to come all the way to the front and then go through the flues.
And actually, you actually have heat on four sides of your flue in quotes, because it's a tube, really, a fire tube.
Yes, it's a fire tube, yeah.
And this, as I understand it, that Lapierre designed, this was the most, and it probably still is, the most efficient
It's
evaporator.
very efficient, and it's very fast. You were making anywhere between 160 and 180 gallons of syrup an hour, depending on what concentration we're taking it to and how thin you want to run it through. Glenn's one of these that'll run just a tiny, tiny, tiny layer of sap through things. I'm a little less brave. I'm more of an inch or two of liquid levels in here to keep everything, to give me a little extra cushion of what's happening. This is going to be the first year that myself and Chris, my son-in-law, are going to be running this, because previously, Ricky Thompson, who's worked with us for years and years and years, has gone on to work for Leader H2O as a regional representative. So we will have to wing it a little more this year.
Now, he's been with you a long time, because I remember getting my first RO from you guys through Carl Evans. And Ricky was the guy I'd call when I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, he was here 19 years.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's about, I want to say 18 years ago, maybe 19 is when I got my first
He's family.
RO.
Yep.
So this flow, I'm going to get a shot of this flow meter. Not everybody has this.
Yeah, this lets us know when we run out of sap. So we'll be watching it, and cleaning this evaporator is somewhat of a challenge. We clean it inside and out every night. We've got pan washers in this section, and then we run a garden hose through the front section. We take all the sweet out and keep that separate according to thickness, and then we'll lift the front end a little bit so it'll all drain this way, and run the pan washers overnight. And the end of season, it's a little more challenging. The hood is lifted up with chain falls and brought over, and I climb up inside it with a pressure washer and scrub brushes. And then this panel here comes off, and I climb inside that and clean it.
Your favorite piece of equipment that you think saves the most amount of, I'm going to ask two questions. What is your favorite piece of equipment?
My favorite piece of equipment. Well, I run the RO, and it was a love-hate relationship, because I had no training on how to run an RO, and that's a 12 column. And it was a bit finicky, and can be finicky. I remember distinctly the first night that I had to run it. It was about 11 o'clock at night, and the tanks were just right brim full. And so
you were out of room.
I was out of room, and there was no way around it. Had to start this thing. And when it gets an air bubble in it, doesn't want to cooperate and couldn't get it going.
You're talking about priming the feed pump?
Well, yes. Well, there's always something that causes a little hiccup, don't you know? And so it's 11 o'clock at night. Finally, I get Glenn on the phone. I'm standing there looking at this thing, about ready to start kicking it. And he says, okay, it's got an air bubble somewhere in the system. He says, open the front panel. So it's a huge front electrical panel on this thing. So I open that up, and it's nothing but wires and switches. And keeping in mind the cord coming into this thing is that big around. And he says, okay, about so far down on the left-hand side are 2 boxes. Push in on those. And I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the floor, which is solid wet. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm standing on a wet floor. He says, no problem. Insurance paid up. Push those 2 switches and hold them in. So away we go. And, of course, eventually it did work. And since then, after several years of back and forth tug of war with this thing, I've learned how to run it and make it sing. So that's probably, I'm the most familiar with that piece of equipment. But prior to that, for all the years that we worked here, Glenn always did the boiling, so he always ran this thing when he was here. I did the sap hauling with a ton truck and an 800-gallon tank on it and going back and forth like a little busy bee. Mm-hmm. So really, this is going to be the first year with this. So it'll be interesting.
What do you think the most underrated piece of equipment is today in today's maple industry? Like, it's just not
underrated. Oh boy,
or
define
not,
underrated.
Not thought of a lot. Yet it has a huge impact on
a filter press.
Yeah.
Our filter press, when we got our first little 7-inch filter press, after cone filters, it's like the difference of horse and buggy and JetBlue.
Right.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it's probably one of the things we get a lot of calls on when people start screaming for help, because we do a lot of consultations and it just problem solving for people. And people will call up and say, gosh, I can't get this. This is not working, or this thing you sold me, I can't figure it out. As long as you get the papers in right and you line the plates up right, you got all the little marks on the same side. Ricky had a really fun one time. This guy calls up and he says, well, I've got this filter press, and he says, it works real good every other day. Every other day? What are you doing? Do this and this and this. And he says, well, I don't think you're doing anything wrong. It's not rocket science. Come on. He says, well, we want you to come by and take a look at it. Okay. So he goes and drives out there to do a site visit, and he, from the door, could see what the problem was. Every day when they took the plates off the thing and then put the papers back in and put the end plate on, every other day they were putting it on upside down.
Gotcha.
And they said, oh, does that matter? He says, well, not to me it doesn't, but you might want to make sure that part is on the bottom. So, you mark it with a magic marker. Whenever you get something like that, take a magic marker and go right up one side of it on the top and on the side and mark on the bottom where the end plate goes.
And if you don't see the line, it's not together right.
It's not together right, because when you get as tired as you get,
it's easy to do.
Oh my gosh, I've done it. I did it fairly recently on our filter press we use for canning. And I looked at it, and of course you've got your syrup hot, you're trying to get it to go through it, and you look and you go, oh, well, how could I make such a rookie mistake?
And you're in a hurry sometimes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it.
Or you put two of the same plates together, 2 solid plates or 2 hollow plates.
Well, the best is when you ask somebody to double check you and they miss it too.
Yeah. That makes happens. You feel good. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, filter press is one of the key pieces. The other one, of course, is an RO. Before RO, boiling straight sap.
And RO stands for?
Reverse osmosis.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We use those terms a lot. And
we do.
We're finding out there's just not a lot of content in maple. So we're talking to people across the world that they don't...
Not a clue.
They don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
I try to, use the terminology because we say it so quick. It's breathing for us. Mm-hmm. So I'm always like RO. And
we're ending up having to explain it a lot to tourists. And so I said, picture a window screen with holes so small that only water can get through it. And sugar molecules are big, so they stick on it.
Perfect.
And that, they get that.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, we get...
You don't want to say semi-permeable membrane. That just...
that just sounds kind of like
Sciencey.
hoity-toity,
It does.
like I'm smarter than you and I use big words. We like to meet people where they're at their level of understanding, whether it's in the industry or outside the industry. And I think that's what makes Glenn so comfortable. People feel so comfortable talking with him, because even though we have grown to this size, we remember what it's like to have 25 trees and boil out in the open.
You've done it.
We've done it. And so it's important to remember what it's like to be that size.
Yeah.
And to have the kind of problems that you have at that size. Having been there, done that, we can figure it out pretty quick.
The empathy, this isn't really for the video, but for me, my mentor was so patient with me. And he has said I'm his best student and I'm his worst student. And he had such patience that I look back and go, I'm thankful. Mm-hmm. But I struggle to have the same patience with others that he had with me. And I'm always challenged with that to remember, oh my gosh, because it took me 10 years to learn a lesson. Why can't it take you 30 seconds? I don't know what's wrong with you. It's not really fair. But I tend to do that.
Well, part of that is because everything in this world has got to be quickity, quick. And fast. And training a child to do things takes time, and it does take patience. You could do it yourself pretty fast, and if that's your goal, then just do it yourself. But if you really want to train somebody and mentor somebody, you have to just take that breath and go, okay, and smile and say, all right, how do we do this? Think it through. How would you change it? Is there anything you would do differently? And get them to think outside of the box just a little bit.
So your
they see the
journey
bigger
started
picture.
with how many trees?
25.
And do you remember like the first time you sold maple syrup? And do you remember?
Yeah, it was after we built our little sugar house, and our first crop, I believe, was 165 gallons. And I have a picture of it sitting on our dining room floor. Everything all canned up into tin cans.
Really? Mm-hmm. And then you sold it to consumers, and
we built a little farm stand the next summer, and we put a flag out, and we put a sign, one of the state directional road signs. We got a hold of one of those and got that installed. And then people would show up and want to take a tour of the old sugar house, which we did. And so it was kind of difficult because I couldn't really leave in case somebody should come. You know how that goes.
yeah.
That was a little bit difficult, especially with young children, and you like to take them and go do things.
Sure.
So that was a bit of a struggle to, really not be able to do things during daylight hours that you'd like to normally do. But we met a lot of wonderful people. I do remember distinctly one very memorable one that came, and they had a white Mercedes. And we had this big parking lot area that you could easily park 4 or 5 cars. And for whatever reason, they didn't think that they should park there. So they backed into the little tiny pullout across the road that belonged to the neighbor. And it was mud season. So it was a little more muddy down there. I thought, they're likely to get stuck. And then the neighbor had this big black lab. And labs aren't known for being overly brainy. And so the lab comes up, and they're in his parking lot. So he comes
happy
up,
to see you.
happy. Comes up and he's galloping around the car. Oh boy, visitors. And the guy opens his door and gets out, and he bends over and to talk to his wife, who's still in the car, holding the door open. Well, the dog obviously knew that he was inviting him into his car, so in the dog went, mud and all, over that lovely beige upholstery.
Probably leather.
Real leather upholstery, and plastered that car and the woman in the car. Finally,
There
the
was
guy...
probably some wet, slobbery kisses given, too.
Oh, I bet so, too. And I'm watching with amusement, and he finally gets the dog out of the car, and comes marching and storming up across the way. Your dog just got in my car. And I said, well, first of all, you parked in his parking lot, and that's not my dog, that's their dog, and you did hold the door open for him. And so he didn't think it was overly funny, but I was just laughing to beat the band.
I bet you have a dozen of stories like this.
I have a lot of stories like that.
That's a classic.
Oh, yeah. You know, and people, they just really sometimes just don't have concept that there is a whole process to this. So it's actually been quite fun to explain to people, and they're thirsty for that knowledge, because lots of times when we do a tour, it can last anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour and a half. And Glenn's tours are so detailed and so technically filled.
Might be longer.
We have accused him of holding people hostage.
That's fair.
So that's fair.
And I'll bet you no tour is the same.
No two are the same.
Because he doesn't have to, it just, you know, I get it.
Yeah. No two are the same. And again, we gear it to what level they're at. You know, if we've got a nuclear physicist here, then obviously maybe we're not having to explain certain things in detail like we would normally to somebody who's, you know, from another country, and we've got a language barrier. We've had ones that had to have interpreters.
That's cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
I mean, just now you've had people come in from Israel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And we had a load of Russian housewives, farm wives from Ukraine one time. And then about 2 of them spoke English, and the tour guide did. And she came in and said, well, we'd like to have a tour, but can you explain sugaring in sentences of 3 words or less? That's what I did. Okay, sure. And so we did.
The tree.
This is a tree. This is sap. This is an evaporator. And so we had to kind of really work our way through it. It was a little more challenging, but it went pretty good.
This is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the RO that I run. And
So how many posts? 12.
12, yep.
Awesome.
And this is our barrel washer, which is kind of fun. So this is what we use to wash our barrels with. And this spray ball is under pressure, so it'll really clean them really well. All barrels are washed before they're filled, regardless if they're clean or not. They've been in storage, so we give them a quick rinse, and that's with water off the evaporator, so it's boiling hot, and that's really good.
Yeah, the drum probably gets hot, huh?
Very, very. And that'll clean everything out of that in good shape. The RO itself, the sap is delivered to the building across the way here. The sap comes underground to this point, goes through the RO, goes back to that building into a concentrate tank, and then is pumped back to the evaporator when we're ready.
Yeah, you guys have a unique feed system on your evaporators.
Very unique, yes.
I haven't seen that. You don't have a concentrate tank.
We do have a concentrate
Well, I
tank.
mean, it's
in
not up over your evaporator.
No, nothing is up high. We've had a lot of people who have put tanks up overhead, not fully giving that the proper support that it should have, not realizing how heavy that's really going to be. A friend of ours had his tanks up overhead of their big new kitchen area that they had built.
No kidding.
And collapsed. Luckily, no one was in it at the time, and these big tanks came thundering down with all the contents, of course.
Oh, my.
So, you know, anytime you put something up overhead, you're going to be working underneath them.
It's not a 2x4 construction.
No. No, it wants to be big timbers. Yeah.
So you have something else unique is your, you actually take your concentrate and run it through a heat exchanger. Is that what that is?
This is actually the reverse. This is a cooler.
Yeah, you're cooling your concentrate.
We're cooling the concentrate after it comes out of the RO. We cool it with this big fin thing here, and it's cooled by a pond, our pond that we have special for this up on top of the hill. Gravity feeds down through, all iced over, of course, so it's beautiful ice water.
So your concentrate gets cold. Well, the machines warm it up a little bit, and
We cool it right back down.
That's smart.
Yep. And of course, at Glenn's Sugar House, you saw the big concentrate tank, and that's it's a 6,000 gallon dairy tank with a cooler in it, and he'll take that down to 34 degrees and actually turn it to slush if it's going to set for more than a short period.
I got you.
Yeah,
This is awesome.
it is.
So how about canning? Is it something you want to show?
Yes. This goes into our oil furnace. And it has its own zone, so this will heat the syrup to 190 degrees in a heartbeat.
Gotcha.
And it's quite small, as you can see.
It is.
So we're pumping the syrup out of a drum, which will sit here, goes through this heater into the filter press, and then it goes into a holding kettle. This is a steam kettle. We bought this ages ago off a restaurant thing somewhere, but it works like a dream. Holds in the air where we add our filter aid, and then it goes from the pump to the kettle to the filter press. And then it comes into the water jacketed canning tank. And this is where we fill all of our containers. And when we're not loaded with tools, we have our canning
Sure.
set up out this way.
This is a nice little bottling
We
room.
have hot water and cold water at the sink.
Oh, wow.
We actually built this to have pass-through windows if we decided to do our sugar on snow serving out of here, which we didn't do this year, but we hope to do it another year.
It's kind of like be like a creamy stand.
It would be if we did that, yes.
Very
Yep.
cool.
So this is all new, and we wanted to have it be all metal so it would be easy to clean, bright, and
This is
cheery.
great.
It's so different than the little walk area that we've had for 35 years.
This is great. This
Yeah.
really is. This is
really
a
is
good
nice.
example of how a sugar maker can really set up a little bottling station.
You don't really have to have anything special, just cleanable. Easily cleanable, stainless steel surfaces, that sort of thing.
How fast does the little heat exchanger heat the syrup?
Very
I mean,
fast.
like as you're pumping it through, it comes out hot.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's amazing. This
So-
is so much faster than what we used to have.
I had no idea. So this is that sugar house you mentioned that was rented?
Yes. Yeah, we rented it for about 10 years to a friend of ours. He had a woods but no sugar house and didn't have a place to build one just yet. We serve sugar on snow to our visitors when they come, the bus tours. And sitting 50 people somewhere, we don't want them in the sugar house because they're going to slop and make a mess on the floor. So we set up a bunch of picnic tables and benches up here. We had is the action verb, 20 by 30 pavilion tent. But we had some pretty high winds last Saturday morning, and it kind of took it, tied it up in a pretzel, and threw it half up on the warehouse roof for me. I was going to take it down yesterday, but of course, there we go.
It's gone.
It took it down for me, so now
So you had some tour buses yesterday?
we had some, our last buses were on Thursday.
Gotcha.
And we had up to 9 buses a day. Some of the days we had buses pretty steady all summer and fall. We have 3 different tour companies that stop by here and visit us, and we have to plan ahead, of course, make sure we've got product and staff on hand. But for the most part, they're coming here for the experience, of course, and sugar on snow. But other tourist places, they let them loose and they kind of blend with the rest of the crowd, and it's hard for them to retrieve all their people in a timely manner and keep their schedule. Here they come, we keep each bus together, and they'll have their sugar on snow, and then they go in for a tour, and as soon as that group breaks, the next ones who are up here eating the sugar on snow go in for a tour, and it's like a conveyor belt.
Gotcha.
All day long.
This is probably your top sales time of year,
It has been, yes.
like
We
historically,
have-
traditionally.
Yes. In the fall is when all the people come to see the pretty leaves.
They want to see the maple syrup being made in the fall.
Of course they do. In the summer and the fall, they're so disappointed when they
Yeah.
come in and we're not boiling, and I
Yeah.
tell them, no, you're not.
First thing I can tell you coming in here is it feels like a refrigerator.
So these tanks, I climb right inside these and clean them every time they're empty. We have a tank ladder that you go down in. I use a push broom and good hot water. And they're cleaned at least every day, if not more than that. We have 2 of these big tanks, and then we have a water tank that's a little smaller on the other side here for permeate.
this is where it's going underground to the RO.
Sap comes in here first, goes to the RO, comes back, permeate goes to this tank, concentrate goes to this tank.
How much storage do you have? I want to say underground here because I feel like we're underground.
Each one of these tanks is 8,900 gallons. I
Okay.
believe the concentrate tank is 3,500, and I believe this one over here is closer to 4,500.
Now, I'm not kidding you. It's warm out, and as soon as we walk, you could hang meat in here, I think.
It's cool. It's very cool, and that's wonderful for keeping the sap cooler.
This is amongst other reasons you guys have an advantage in the maple industry, but I got to give it a shot and just show. Literally on the side of a mountain. And this is all concrete.
Concrete, yep.
And it's like a giant ice cube.
It is. It's very climate friendly for sap.
Yeah, you got a nice meter there.
Everything comes in from the family farm grove is on meter, and everything that comes in from, well, we'll get a closer look over that. We'll get you close to it. We got a big flow meter over here for all the big trucks when they dump off.
Gotcha.
And so this allows us to have a very accurate reading of everything that we process. And we take that in on a load by load and a day by day basis. And I stack that up against our records of what we made, how much we made, and what grade it was.
So you know how much syrup you should end up with, right?
Yep. Everything that comes in from the trucks comes into this pump, is pumped into the tanks through these big filters, and we record everything on a sheet to say what it is, the date, the sugar content, where it came from, volume, that sort of thing. So we keep very meticulous records.
And I see you have directions written out.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Cool. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So right here, this guy.
That one, I'll show you how big it is. It's 3,900 gallons.
39 right there.
Yeah.
Well, 47 US.
Now, all of these tanks, here's a little secret. All of these tanks came into this building after it was built. You can see here we have a jog where it's wood. There was just a big enough opening to get these big tanks through. And I'm on the outside with those on the skid steer with long fork extensions. And Glenn's inside. And we're getting these in the door, tipped down, and then braced. And then he'd roll them off into place. And first came the concentrate tank, then that first tank, then this one, and then that was the final one.
Because you have to roll this one over to get that.
Sideways and move them all around.
It's like Tetris.
It was.
Is this your ladder to get in and out of the tanks?
No.
Oh.
That's our ladder to get in and out of the truck transport tank.
I got you.
It's a milk truck tank.
And it probably hangs
that-
down. So, oh, I got you.
Yeah, that's bigger than the opening, so that hangs and then you climb down.
No, why? I can't do that.
I do, yes. That's why I can't either.
I can't. I don't fit.
I would not fit, no. That takes our skinniest person that we've got on the team to do.
Right?
Yeah. And someone who's not afraid of heights. Okay, so in here, this is cool because we have all this glass. So we package in a variety of different containers. Glass is actually very attractive. They can see the product. We find that most people liked the glass more because they can see it. And you can explain the colors to them a lot better if they can see it in the glass. And we've got quite a wide variety of different style containers. So, you know, and there are many different likes and dislikes of containers, so they can pick out whatever they'd like and whatever style.
I mean, just the amount of different products you have is unbelievable.
Well, we try to give them a variety. We found that a lot of people this year are going for the big glass.
Right.
And a lot of them want bigger glass. So we're going to think about packaging the half-gallon.
Do you offer them a drum?
We have before. Nobody's taken us up on it quite yet, but you know.
Hey Glenn, I need to know how many garage sales you guys went to get all of these ribbons.
Oh,
How many garage sales and thrift stores? Did you order these all online?
I want them all at the beauty pageant.
There's a little over 700 up there.
Wow.
And all the big rosettes are best of class, best of show type of ribbons that we've won over the years. Well, there is a ribbon here. It's right here. Now this one, we did not win in any competition. But it says Goodrich's Sugar House, best maple syrup in the world. Many sugar makers come in and said, what competition did you win that in? And that came to us because Glenn was out somewhere with the tractor one day, and it was fall this time of year. And up the road here, somebody got to looking at the pretty leaves a little too much, and there was a car down over this steep bank with just the taillights sticking up. So he stopped and asked them if they were having a spot of trouble. And they said, mm-hmm. And so he said, well, you wait a minute, I'll go get a couple chains and we'll get you out of there. So he went back and pulled him out. And he says, well, what can I pay you? He says, no, you don't have to pay me. He says, but if you want some syrup, come down here to our sugar house and get something there. So he came in and bought some syrup and went home and tried it. And a few weeks later, this box arrives in the mail that has this ribbon and Welcome to Goodrich's Sugar House banners in it.
Awesome.
And I had no clue where the heck this was coming from. And so Glenn was off mowing, doing roadside mowing, as was our business of the day. And when he got back, I asked him, and he's kind of laughed and said, well, that's that guy I pulled out of the ditch the other day. He works for the company that makes all these ribbons. And so
Awesome.
on his spare time, he put that together and sent it to us.
And there's more to that story, right? It's
Yes.
just, it means a lot. I
It
love
means
it.
a lot, and it confuses the heck out of other sugar makers who
Sure.
compete.
Why
but it's
didn't I know about this?
So we also make jams and jellies, as I said. We have fruit bushes and things, and I make all these. I make
Are you
the
serious?
pickles and relish, and then my daughter makes barbecue sauce using the maple sugar. We put maple sugar in the pickles and relish. It's a
Wow.
nice sweet relish. Here are our infused syrups that we do. We do vanilla, cinnamon, coffee, and blueberry.
I don't see, where's your bourbon?
We don't do the bourbon one.
No bourbon?
We don't drink. I've had the bourbon. It does not appeal to me in any way, shape, or form.
You haven't had the right stuff yet.
It's a good way to ruin good maple syrup.
Oh.
Okay. But very popular with people. My favorite is the cinnamon.
Do you put a
good
cinnamon
on
stick in it?
Really good on vanilla ice cream. What we do is we'll put the vanilla bean, the cinnamon stick, the coffee beans, and dehydrated blueberries, because fresh blueberries, just too much moisture in them. And we put them in the bottles ahead of time. And then we put 190, 200 degree syrup in there on those, and it brews. And it takes on the flavor of whatever it touches.
I've never been able to make good cinnamon maple syrup.
Put the stick in there and make sure the
I
syrup's
haven't.
good and hot.
Yeah, it just doesn't take for me. I don't know what it is. And then blueberry, I see people put puree in it.
No.
So you get flavor out of the dehydrated blueberries.
Yes, we do. It's subtle.
Sure.
But it's really nice on oatmeal.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
same like with vanilla, right? I mean, it's
The
subtle.
vanilla is very mellow. It's
And
smooth.
a vanilla bean is not inexpensive.
No, they are not. They had some sort of thing that wiped them out over
Madagascar.
in Madagascar there a few years back, and things got really pricey.
It was crazy. It was like $50 for a bean or something. Wasn't it stupid high?
We got a little box with a package in there, and I don't know if it was how many sticks were actually in there, but it was $1,200. So yeah, it can really change the game. We've
Wow.
since found a less expensive source, so that's kind of nice. Michelle is really good about sourcing things, and finding things that are a little more unique, a little different,
Sure.
more economical. And
Do you sell a lot online?
We do.
Okay.
We do. We have an online store, and we've got all the different pictures of her product
And
on there.
what's the name of your website?
GoodrichesMapleFarm.com.
No kidding. We'll put that right there in the video while you're
Yep.
giving us the tour.
And so
are
we also-
most of these available on your website
Yes.
then? Okay.
And then we do seasonings. We have a maple sugar-based seasoning for Cajun, for salmon and fish, pork and roast.
Really?
We've got peppered maple, and we've got French toast seasoning, which basically has all your cinnamon and nutmeg in it and ready to go. You just sprinkle it in the egg.
Could you
egg
show
batter.
me the salmon seasoning?
Salmon seasoning. We've got it in a bunch of different sizes. This is a good one.
So salmon. So this has maple sugar pretty much as the base.
Maple sugar is the base, but
Okay.
it's just the right blend of sugar, of sweet, and seasonings to...
Sweet and savory together.
Yeah, sweet and savory together. Not hot. We don't like a lot of hot, spicy stuff. So it's you could eat this straight.
Can I see that?
It's really, really good.
Look at this. Salmon and maple just goes. I'm on a salmon kick. I have been on a salmon kick lately.
Well, you
That's
can,
awesome.
You can keep that
Oh,
one.
thank you.
So we have it for different varieties of meats. We're thinking of doing something for pizza.
I've heard of this lately.
would be
Maple
kind
syrup
of-
on pizza has been
Maple
a thing.
syrup on pizza is great, but this would be maple sugar and Italian seasonings.
Okay.
So that's something that we're coming up with.
Have you heard of maple syrup on pizza?
Yes, I've had it. So we package also in tin, because people really like the older style tin cans. And then, of course, we have plastic, and we have everything according to grade so that they can pick out what they
I
want.
see you have a grade kit here, but or not a kit, but to show
it's
the
actually a
consumer.
gift set of all three are top grade, and
That's
that
awesome.
gives them a sampler.
Are you kidding me? Can I hold that for a second? This is awesome. I mean, that thing weighs. You could use this for home defense.
Yeah, you're good. Mhm.
That's heavy.
It is. Yep. So we do that, and we do the maple sugar as well in different size containers. We do cinnamon sugar, again, the peppered maple. You can't call it maple pepper because some guy in Maine copyrighted the name.
Really, maple pepper.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we call it peppered maple. There is different sizes of sugar, up to 5-pound bags. And then we look for local people who do something a little different that we don't do. And we will do the mustards, and the sriracha have been extremely popular. So keeping ahead of all this inventory, as you can imagine, can be quite a challenge. Especially with bus tours, because they'll come through like a herd of piranhas and the shelves will be
locusts.
bare. Yeah. So it's quite the job to keep up with all these products, because for every container that you see, these have our own label on them, on name, address, and everything. And that's something that sugar makers have to do, is put a lot of stickers on things usually.
Oh my, yeah.
We used to screen it on the side of the jug. We'd put an amber rich screened on part of the picture, and then just put a sticker over it if we did something else, and that saved us quite a lot of stickers that way. But we found with tourists, it's awfully nice for them to have it right where they can see it right on top as well. So these are pretty self-explanatory, and as you can see, it's got a picture of our place here. Now this is before all the multiple additions. But it's a real picture, which that sells really, really well.
It's not a fictional place.
It's not a fictional place. These, we actually print these and have them, we have to hand apply them and put them on there. So that's an extra step.
I've always felt in the maple industry, we have this green industry, renewable resource, we're doing sap, and I noticed one of your items that's dear to me, which is this one. And, when I was growing up, my mom...
Multiple use containers.
Right, and you don't throw packaging away that could be used for juice or milk or, for the kids, because they're going to break glasses. But this is one of the most underrated products in the maple industry, because what do we do with the rest of the packaging? It's either going in recycling or trash. That is a true reusable. There's nothing better than reusable.
Some of the locals, they'll get these larger size glass in half gallons and gallons, and they'll bring them back for refills during the season or when we're canning.
You got it on tap.
Basically. Yep.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of nice.
This is really cool.
Out here, we have local photography that we feature as well.
We get a shot of this. So this is local photography.
Local photography, and Victoria's actually doing some photography now.
Really?
Yep, and selling pictures. Yep.
Yeah, she said she's doing your one of your was it TikTok? She's doing a little bit of TikTok social media.
She's doing some social media stuff. Yep. She's actually making videos and posting them.
That's awesome.
Then out here we have just different things. We do lollipops. We've got local people that put together lip balm and infusers, and those are kind of nice. We've got some local jerky that we've got in. We do candies, our own candies, and of course gift boxes. People like the glass, but they want a gift for somebody, a little extra special.
Sure.
So we do the gift boxes as well.
For anybody, this is what I tell anybody, for that hard to buy for person, you can't go wrong with maple syrup. You really can't.
They love it. They love it. And this is something that old sap buckets, what do you do with them? Some people will burn, maple leaves into them, cutouts and things. I will, in my spare time, just paint these little vignettes on those. Yeah, those are mine.
I see Ruth Goodrich.
Yep.
So you painted these scenes.
Yes.
This is awesome. I noticed they're not exactly alike.
No two are exactly alike.
But they do look similar.
They are similar. And here's a saw blade that has it on it. I also have a hand saw blade over there that has a similar one on it.
That's awesome. And you do, when you said you were artistic.
Yes.
This is the part. Are you left-handed? Is
no.
it right-brained?
Debatable. I can do, I've trained, we've had a lot of artists that live in summer up here, and a lot of musicians and things like that. And we've had a benefit of having two world-class artists that lived here for many years, and I got to study with them and go to some of their art classes and stuff. And a lot of self-taught, but I can do the big, beautiful land, pictures and landscapes and things. But when you have a 5-year-old grandbaby underfoot who likes to paint too, I don't do the big ones when she's around. As much. Because that takes a lot more time. You can sit at those for days and days. Before they're complete. So these are quick 10-minute little vignettes.
That's awesome.
And people love it. Yeah. It gets rid of the sap buckets.
Cool.
We tripled our retail space by putting on this new addition.
This way?
This used to be our kitchen area here, and that used to be our showroom area. That was it. And when you put 50 people in a small space like that, it's very uncomfortable.
Gets hot.
It gets hot, but it's also very non-productive. So this has opened it up. You can put a bus of 50 people in here, and it still seems wide open. and it's comfortable. Everybody can kind of mingle and see the different products well. And we put on a line of t-shirts.
I see you got some swag, some Goodrich swag here.
Yeah, we've got t-shirts and sweatshirts that are say Vermont on them, and those have been extremely popular with everyone. And, you know, my other daughter does some little handcrafts that she brings in, and so it's kind of a
This is cool.
neat blend of local. Now these postcards, this one is one of mine. This is one of mine. That's actually Glenn's brother. This one is a local photographer. That's the Bridge to Nowhere. It's located near here on Cabot Plains. The fellow that owned the land thought it would look nice there, so he built a pond and a covered bridge, and it's one of the most photographed things around. Friends of ours in New York State took this one of a drop coming off a sap bucket and happened to catch it just right. And they
That's
gave me
perfect.
permission to use it, and we have put it on our postcards in a lot of our
This is
literature.
very cool. I see he's got the gas-powered tapper we used to use.
Yeah, that's back in the day.
Uh-huh.
Glenn wasn't around that day, so I borrowed him.
Cool.
They look alike. So this is our card that we give to people, and that shows a picture of our sugar house, tells a little about us. On the flip side, gets our 800 number and our website location. They can just go on there and order more. And then we've got the Did You Know card, which gives you your nutritional information. Flip it over, and you've got all your grade information.
This is awesome. I'm going to snag this so I can put it
Yep,
right in
yeah,
there.
absolutely.
This is cool. Thank you.
Then, of course, we do pancake mixes. We've searched around for the best pancake mix we can find, and this one actually comes out of New York State. This is New Hope Mills and all their different types of flavors. We also do a maple granola, which is very popular.
Maple scrunchies?
Maple, well, not maple scrunchies, but scrunchies.
Handcrafted
My
scrunchies.
middle daughter, Jean, does the crocheting and the handiwork, yep.
That's awesome.
Now, these here are the pictures that Victoria does.
No
She
kidding.
gets those printed up.
So this is the
Sells those.
granddaughter was talking to me about the 7 trees she takes care of.
Yeah. She's into sunsets.
This is awesome.
Yeah. This is actually a picture from our house looking down at the sugar house and down our driveway, and beautiful sunset that we see off our porch.
Wow. Is this Champlain or someplace close?
I think that is Marshfield Reservoir right down here.
I got you. Cool.